Good morning, everyone. It's January 28th, 2021. I'm Eric. Check it out. China is using anal swabs to test the public for coronavirus. I guess a lot of us are probably thanking God we don't live in China. And if we were living in China, I would strongly be pushing for, some major shit to be flung at the Chinese Communist Party. I thought that was a rather amusing screen capture there. I missed an opportunity to crack you guys up a couple days ago where I was watching a video and they used an old Jerry Springer episode as the background, kind of. And it said on the caption below, "Mama, please don't ruin my transgender wedding." Can you imagine? Anyway, I thought I'd share that one with you because it's rather funny to me. I can't believe people take all the abuse that we do. I mean, we really take a whole bunch of abuse. And I have another picture to show you. I'm going to save it for the end because you might be, your mind might be blown after I show the picture to you. It will at least trip you out a little bit. So don't stick around for that. I also noticed that my longer videos get less views, so I'm going to try to make my videos a little bit shorter and to the point quicker. Alright, DHS issues new terror advisory on domestic violent extremists. Domestic violent extremists who object to presidential transition. And at first it's going to be, obvious nutcases. And then it will expand to, everybody else. Well, at least everyone who doesn't hold the same values as, say, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Barack Obama. But on Wednesday, the Department of Homeland Security issued a new National Terrorism Advisory System Bulletin. Well, that's a fucking mouthful, isn't it? Or NTAS for the United States. Past updated bulletins in more normal times typically mention not being aware of a specific or credible threat, or there's often vague warnings of a potential Iranian threat, such as was the case last spring in the wake of the killing of Iranian IRGC General Soleimani. That's better. But the newest DHS posting emphasized the domestic threat of ideologically motivated violent extremists with objections to the presidential transition. Right? The scary white men are coming to get everybody. Woo! Just like the coronavirus was coming to get everybody. Woo! Okay. So, as I said, it will start off with, the most obvious loons and move on to everyone else who don't hold the same values as, well, the people I've already mentioned. There's a snapshot or a screen capture of the bulletin. For the sake of time, I won't be reading over this with you in this video, although I might do another video later on today specifically about that. I just wanted to point that out. But DHS believes that the threat will persist in the weeks following the successful presidential inauguration. Yeah, the only people that were at that inauguration were National Guard and a handful of others. There were no citizens that I could see, or did see anyway. According to the DHS summary of the threat, information suggests that some ideologically motivated violent extremists with objections to the exercise of governmental authority. See, it already expanded governmental authority, which I do have big objections to, since they always seem to step out of their authority, and the presidential transition, as well as other perceived grievances fueled by false narratives. Let's see. That already expanded it from the most obvious loons to everybody else, didn't it? Guys like that, apparently. Although I wouldn't be taking this dude too seriously with his mushroom top lower abdomen here. But I'll do a video more detailed about this one later on, so we can move on to something else. Imagine that. Imagine that. Proud Boys leader was prolific FBI snitch, according to court documents. How does this not surprise me? It says in the first paragraph here, while U.S. officials claim that far-right extremism is one of the largest threats facing America, the leader of the group most commonly singled out as an example, the Proud Boys, was a prolific informant for federal and local law enforcement, according to Reuters, citing a 2014 federal court proceeding. How about that? Enrique Tarrio repeatedly worked undercover for investigators following a 2012 arrest, court documents reveal. Curiously, he was ordered to stay away from Washington, D.C. one day before the January 6th Capitol riot. So, this is what happens in these groups. And this is why personal what did I call it? Personal clandestine operations are necessary. Because then the only person who knows is you. In the 2014 hearing, a federal prosecutor, an FBI agent, and Tarrio's attorney described his undercover work, noting that the Proud Boys leader helped authorities prosecute over a dozen people in various cases involving drugs, gambling, and human smuggling. Now, you know what? If it had just been limited to the human smuggling, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with it, because it's a pretty bad business. Whereas gambling and drugs, these are personal decisions, right? Whereas with no victim other than the person making the decision and inflicting upon themselves the losses in the case of gambling and addiction in the case of drugs. But human smuggling, they actually have a victim. Now, moving on. This comes from the Free Thought Project. The other ones came from Zero Hedge. As schools reopen amid COVID, kids forced to kneel for hours, get no recess, no art, and no PE. Do you see why I don't send my kids to public school? Because these places are filled with either retards or tyrants. In a lot of cases, both. But we will look at what Albert Einstein thought of modern education. In quotes here, "It is in fact nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of education have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry, for this delicate plant, aside from stimulation, stands mainly in need of freedom. Without this, it goes to rack and ruin without fail. It is a very grave mistake to think that the enjoyment of seeing and searching can be promoted by means of coercion and a sense of duty." Albert Einstein. Okay, I'm going to only hit the first two here. Standard education in America typically focuses on creating a supply of worker bees who follow orders from authority and operate within the confines of the system has set out, but lack critical thinking skills. Right. Even before the insanity around COVID-19 lockdowns began, the result of such a system, which suppresses and discourages creativity and imagination, were already having a detrimental effect on children. Now, however, thanks to a set of often cruel and entirely arbitrary regulations, children across the planet are being severely harmed by government mandates. Imagine that. School regulations and lockdowns. Last month, a study by researchers at the University of Cambridge found that the government-imposed lockdowns in response to the coronavirus pandemic caused significant harm to children's mental health. The study, published in the Archives of Disease in Childhood, was the first of its kind to analyze data on younger children's mental health before and during the first lockdown in the United Kingdom last spring. The researchers concluded during the UK lockdown, children's depression symptoms have increased substantially relative to before the lockdowns. And then you go over here to this one. To this one. Come on, to this one. Bert. There we go. Horrifying video shows a school cop smash girl's head to the concrete, knocking her unconscious. Yet another reason not to send your children to public schools. This happened in Kissimmee, Florida. I'm going to just hit this one right here. This is Liberty High School, how ironic, in Osceola County, and I've seen my share of body slams from that school, not only by officers, but from deans as well. I've seen grown-ass men hop on top of girls to hold them down while they're clearly in distress. So, yet another reason to keep your kids safe by not sending them to these institutions. Let's see here. It might not play. Oh well. Alright. Yet another one. Come on. Cops terrorize innocent 10-year-old boy. Cuff and detain him without cause. Not disciplined. Why is that not a surprise? This happened in Chicago. The parents of a 10-year-old boy were horrified after their son was detained and placed in handcuffs for no reason by Chicago police. The interaction was captured on video and sparked outrage in the community when it originally happened. Now, however, more outrage is expected as the Police Review Board has determined that the cops should face no accountability. So, yet another case of equal protection under the law. Okay? So that's it for the body of my video here. But there is something else I'd like to show you. What does that look like to you? Any ideas? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like to me. This looks like, to me, one of the nuclear bombs that were detonated back in the 1940s. And this looks like the description of what happens when one of these bombs are detonated. You got the mushroom cloud, then you have these arrows going off in all directions, as if it's saying it goes in all directions. And then you have the twinkles that occur after one of these explosions. And it could also represent the fact that it's like the sun, right? It's done out of aggression. I base this right here on the fact that he's wielding a knife, right? Tell me, what do you think about that? Isn't that a trip? I think it is. And this comes off an old cylinder seal from Samaria. It brings to mind a couple cities. What were their names? Oh, right. Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what it brings to mind. Anyway, thought I'd share these things with you. I hope all of you have a great day, and I will be doing a more extensive video about this bulletin probably later on today after I do school with my daughter. So until next time, kill the state and live free.